Elaine said to me, "How do you feel about acting, love?" I was like, "Give it a go."
Yeah.
And she was like, "All right, I've got a couple of actor mates. If you want to go hang out with them, you know, you can practice some scenes for me." I was like, "Okay, cool." And so I started doing all these practice scenes. I started speaking to actor friends I knew, and they were giving me a hand. There's a guy called Orlando Seal. She sent me to see maybe 5 different coaches. And honestly, like, I found it quite... I mean, I think the thing I learned from going to see the acting coaches, because I told you I don't like being taught, is I just got over the fear. And I did it because I wanted to impress Elaine.
Yeah,
so I just
man.
kept being willing to put myself in the room and be vulnerable until I felt like I was getting over that. And then I feel like when I really learned it was, for one, half of the character I played in Northern Soul in the end, it's like 70% Elaine herself, you know? Like,
For real?
yeah, because of her accent, her body language, and when I was hanging out with her, just be like, "Hey, fuck you, you prick!" We'd just be joking around with it all the time, and it just started coming out, and the swagger, and so I ended up learning with Elaine in her kitchen, and she started just like
Mannerisms and all sorts of...
she'd read the scenes with me and film me, and then she'd make me watch it back and be like, "You look like a prick there." "What's that you're doing with your eyebrows? You look stupid. Don't sit like a sack of shit. You know, sort yourself out, lad. Be strong. Keep your head up. What's wrong with you?"
Is she from Wigan? Is she Wigan?
Yeah, she was from Wigan.
Big up the Wigan crew, you know.
Yeah.
For those of you out of towners that from England, Wigan's a place in like, what, the northwest, isn't it?
North, yeah.
Yeah.
It's near
north.
Bolton.
Bolton, yeah. Yeah, kind of St Helens way, isn't it? That
Yeah.
kind of general direction.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's where became like this crazy hub, didn't it? Like of just mad. It wasn't a genre specific thing. It was just a scene, wasn't it, of soul music that was impossible to get imported, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It was the kids in the north started flying out to America to find basically records that never made it and that had never been discovered, and that labels, like, apparently, you know, in Detroit and Philadelphia and Chicago, all the soul bands, the biggest ones, would use the same musicians as the smaller ones, but then there'd just be these smaller records and smaller bands that never got picked up by the labels, so their CDs were just in the stores, well, their vinyls were just in the stores. And so there was loads of undiscovereds, and the kids from the north somehow cottoned onto it, and they'd fly out there and they'd be picking up records, and they'd take them back to the UK, and then they'd DJ, but they'd put a label over the record and call it a cover-up. And that's how you became the biggest DJ, because no one knew what you were playing, and so no one could get a copy of it. So that's how you kept your sort of status as a DJ.
Yeah, that's
which is very different to how it's happening now, and it's really cool.
I love the anonymity.
Historic time, you know.
Yeah, man. The migration of that whole genre going, and I've always tried to kind of map it out in my head. Right, Liverpool docks, the import of and export of like products, the music coming over. There must have been something must have happened, but that's magical, isn't it? When you think about how that even became just a thing. Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's bonkers, man. And anyway, she kind of like just taught me for a while to do all this, and then from what I gather, there was quite a few people against, because she was in the background sort of talking to people going, "I think I might try and use Josh for this film. He's Matt, he's this character." And everyone was kind of like, "Don't do that. He's not an actor, he's not trained, he's going to mess it up for you." Love.
Were these actors saying this?
Some of them.
I guess
some
it was
of them
a mixed
were,
bag.
you know, producers or people just, you know, like people who advise the director. You know, even acting coaches, people I'd worked with who said, "I can't act for Toffee," and they were like, "Nah, I wouldn't do it, love." You know, because in the sessions I was doing with them, I didn't click, I didn't get it. And so, but she kind of taught me and had this faith in me, like ridiculously so.
What do you think was, just sorry, cut you short, stay on that, but what do you think is, you know, from your point of view, what was your sticking point? Was it your reading? Was it your
what the sticking point is in what she...
Why would people have questioned that at the time? Your acting skills? Yeah, would you say your main...
I think people were worried that I wasn't trained.
Oh, that's it? That's it?
Yeah, and that I'd never done anything before.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
then I'd
a bit
kind
of a
of been tested, and I think they'd filmed some of my lessons with the teacher, and they just didn't think I had the pizzazz
Right.
thing, you know. But it's just a craft, you know. You got to kind of learn it, and well, I'll kind of get onto the
do
rest
it,
of learning it after. But
For real.
she, I think she saw something in me when we did the Jack Wills campaign. She asked me to. She told me this since. She said, "Yeah, Josh, love, there's a bunch of extras over there. Do you mind keeping them entertained? Because we're having a bit of a technical." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, love." And I grabbed a guitar and I jumped up on a hay bale and I started singing. And they all just kind of came around and I was like, la 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 da 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 da. And she was like,
It's sick.
I want to bottle that, is what she told me. She was thinking.
Yeah.
But yeah, so she kind of just like, she had a bit of a tunnel vision on sort of making it happen, which I, you know, if you ever watch this, Elaine, thank you again. I will never stop thanking you for everything you did for me in that sense. And then basically after, in total 2 years of learning to dance and practicing this acting, and there was a young lad called Ethan as well. He was like 13 or something when we made the film. He's in the film. He's an incredible dancer. He had this swagger and he was very highly energetic and kind of annoying, but in the best way, mate.
Hey, we all grew up as well, you know. It's only 13 at the time, you know. So,
yeah, but I actually ended up basing some of the character on him as well, and just sort of pieced it because he was just so like, hey, Al, like, well, yeah. Bouncing around the place, and he's a good dancer, and you know, he had this swagger. So I kind of did a mixture of him and a bit of Elaine, and then just like learned the script eventually. But that film ended up, it took 2 years before it would come out. So I had this sort of eruption of learning to act and acting in a lead role in a film for the first time.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, what is this? Can I do this? And then there's 2 years of like them finishing it, because obviously like no one's seen it. No one knows I'm an actor. I don't even know that I'm an actor. And so then, you know, I've not got an agent. Like, I've just had this crazy opportunity. And the film ended up coming out. And about a week before it came out, Elaine came into an agency with me. After another guy in the film, James Lance, said, "You should meet my agent, lad." And so I went to meet them and I signed up with them after Elaine sort of praised me and showed them some clips. And they took me on board. And then suddenly, from like the week I got signed with United in London, I ended up signing with CAA in LA and Untitled Management in LA.
Fire.
Ended up getting like 16 people on my team all of a sudden within about 3 weeks because this film came out.
Get the guitar, lad. Come on.
Yeah, and it just all kind of like snowballed when the film came out, because the film was released by Universal. It's supposed to go in 3 cinemas for 3 days, I think, or 5 cinemas for 3 days across the UK. And then it became such a cult hit because of like the scene being so real.
That's right.
That it ended up in 250 cinemas for about 2 months, and it got nominated for a BAFTA, and it got all this attention.
It's got a cult thing to it, hasn't it? It's
Yeah.
got energy that it reminds. Those kind of films remind me of like the Metallica doc, Some Kind of Monster, or The Art of Rap that Ice-T did. It's like it leans towards a homage of a time that was very innocent and it created a thing before all of this now has happened, isn't it? You know, kind of DNA of music and shit. You know?
Yeah, and it helped as well that when she was making the film, she sort of got a lot of people that were actually from the scene, like the older generation.
Oh, sick.
And they were like, when we were doing the dance scenes, they'd be up in the rafters watching, you know, and she had like big DJs from the time on set. And if anything seemed off or if she'd missed anything, then they were allowed to sort of be like, hey, like, that's not how it would have been, love. I'm sorry. And they could talk about it. And it kind of meant that it had been a very sort of supported documentation of the scene that the people who were there couldn't really argue with, because they were there on set often, and they were all sort of, you know, validating it as correct.